I want to first start by talking to you about a floor. Not a dance floor, a horrible sticky floor somewhere above a dodgy pub in East London, because that was my bedroom for a month. Then I graduated to friends' couches, sometimes the office, one-night stands, the odd gay sauna, until after 2 years, I finally had a front door key to call my own. At one point, I was meeting Beyonce during the day and then sleeping in my brother's basement at night. I was living two totally separate lives. I was skint, exhausted, embarrassed. And I still remember the hunger pains, which is probably why nowadays I never miss a meal. I didn't have a trust fund or a family name that opened doors. But what I did have was a belief in this industry, our industry, that I belonged. And I know that a lot of you have some kind of version of that story, maybe not with the gay saunas, but the not having a lot of money when you start off. Those moments where the odds are stacked against us, where our loved ones are saying, when are you going to get a proper job? When that little imposter syndrome voice in the back of your head goes, what the hell are you doing? But we all do it anyway, because I think for us, this isn't just a job. Music is just who we are. It's something deeper than money, something almost irrational. A belief that what happens on a dance floor at 2 a.m. when 1,000 strangers come together in some big, heaving, sweaty mass of joy, that is worth keeping. That it changes people, that it changes all of us. And that's what we want to keep and protect and reclaim. But here's the problem. Somewhere along the line, we started treating people who feel that magic, our audiences, our communities, like ATMs, like cash points, cash cows to be milked for every last cent. Increasingly, we see ticket prices that would make a football chairman wince, growing VIP areas that cut a room in half. We've built an industry that monetizes euphoria and then acts surprised when the joy isn't there anymore. I've just realized that this doesn't work, so great. Cool. Unless if I pressed the wrong button. Cool. Frozen like Madonna. I knew I was wearing black for a reason. There we go. It's worked so well in rehearsal. Anyway, where the joy disappears, because basically just pricing people out. The Substack think pieces ask where the energy went, but the energy is exactly where it's always been. It's in the communities that got priced out. It's with the people who get turned away at the door because they've not got the right trainers or shoes on. I'm not naive. I understand economics. Vibes don't pay bills. And let's face it, it's really hard just to pay your bills nowadays. Running a business in music right now is brutal. And I know that as a manager, a promoter, and a label owner. But when did we stop asking ourselves, who is this all for? Because the dance floor wasn't invented by venture capitalists or bankers. The dance floor, the real dance floor, the one we all fell in love with, was invented by black and brown and queer people in Chicago, New York, and Detroit. By people who've been told by every institution in society that they didn't belong and said, fine, we'll build our own. And they did, and it was sacred. And here's the part that should keep all of us, every promoter, every booker, every label owner in this room wide awake at night. The descendants of those architects, the young, black, brown, queer people of today, are once again being marginalized. But this time it's by some of us. We will stand on stages like this one and, we'll praise the founders of house and techno. We'll give props to Ron Hardy, Frankie Knuckles, and Larry Levan, sing the praises of the Chicago Warehouse and Paradise Garage. And then all too often, go back to our offices and book and sign the same 100 white guys we did last year. We can do better. Now, to be very clear, I don't think straight white guys are the enemy. 20 years ago, I probably would have called myself one. Now, not so much. But jokes aside, please keep booking and signing talented straight white men. I do. All I'm asking is that you also platform their equally talented black and brown peers, their female peers, their queer peers, their trans peers. Because as far as I'm concerned, talent exists everywhere. I've always found it strange that men especially with female producers, they know that women can make entire humans in their belly, but they think they would somehow struggle with the baseline. And oddly, it's always the men who you find out were fucking ghost produced. But I digress. What I know for sure is that when we give our talented peers who also happen to be black, brown, queer, trans, or female the same levels of opportunity and support that their straight white male counterparts enjoy, they end up selling as many tickets. Sarah Landry, Kate Renata, Honey Dijon, Emily Lenz, Black Coffee, Peggy Goo, Poser, Jamie Jones, Adira, Charlotte DeWitt, Miss Monique, Korolova, Kiki. I could keep going on, but you get my point. And it's about the audiences too. Diverse lineups give you diverse crowds. And it's one of the main reasons Sophia and I started HE.SHE.THEY. We wanted to create a space that was as diverse as our friendship group, where once again, it didn't matter if you were black, brown, white, green with polka dots, thin, fat, old, able-bodied. Everyone could belong on a dance floor, feel the same bass line rattle their joints, and think, do you know what? I belong. Not that I'm tolerated, not that I'm an afterthought. I belong with the same power and equity on that dance floor as anybody else. They weren't the exotic one. They weren't allies even. They were just themselves. And that experiment worked. HE.SHE.THEY is still 100% owned. Often ran out of bedrooms. But thankfully, a lot of you lot in this room has helped us with our dreams. We've won awards, released incredible music, and thrown parties in 25 countries. From Pasha to Amnesia, from Coachella and Glastonbury. At Creamfields, Chile, we have 10,000 people dancing to us. It's crazy. I'm a Kansas State kid from Sunderland. Sophia's from Banbury. I'm not saying that because there's some narcissistic thing. I mean, I am a narcissist, but that's not why I'm saying this. We showed that diversity wasn't a problem to be solved or something to be endured, but it's something to celebrate. That it attracts new audiences, sells tickets, reduces violence, and most importantly, maybe of all, it brings the joy and euphoria back. And how did it succeed? Not because we're perfect, because we're not. Not because we have the only answers, because we don't. But because I think we came from a different question. Not how do we fill this big room, but what's it like for the people inside that room? That question changes everything. That's how we started to reclaim the dance floor. And it's been a journey. We've made mistakes, we've owned them and learned from them. Sometimes not the first time, but we got there in the end. We've had to confront our own biases and prejudices head on. But our biggest success, I think, is that we built a community, not just on music, but also on shared values. We've talked to our audience, and our audience has educated us in return. We've discussed misogyny, racism, homophobia, ableism, ageism, xenophobia, transphobia, classism, and all the ways they interplayed intersectionally. All issues which will also be discussed at IMS in various guises. And it's funny to me when people say safe spaces, safer spaces. Is that not just taking the fun out of dance music? And I put it to you this. Have you ever been on a night out where it was amazing, the music was brilliant, mixing impeccable, the production insane, and then you thought to yourself, no, it was good, but like, just wasn't misogynistic enough. You know, there was no gay bashing. I didn't hear the N-word once, like, because to me, that's how stupid that question is. Because to me, the dance floor has always been a place of hope and not hate. And trust me, you can ask my boyfriend, there's no king shaming here. Do whatever you want as consenting adults. But the key here is the word consent. Because let's face it, especially after Me Too, we all now know things about this industry that we can't pretend we don't. But we still don't talk about them. We treat them like Victorian monsters locked away in an attic. We pretend they're not there. We hear them scratching about. We don't address them. But at IMS this year, we're going to open that attic and we're going to face the monsters head on. Sexual assault. Because let's face it, oh, sorry, read the wrong thing. Sexual assault. It happens in our venues, at our festivals, and in our green rooms, in our offices, at our after parties, sadly, even our homes sometimes. It happens to people of all ages, races, sexualities, and genders, by people of all ages, races, sexualities, and genders, but let's face it, most often men. And I won't, but I bet if I did ask this audience, you'd be surprised at the amount of hands that got raised. Probably be horrified. And for too long, the response from our industry has been shit, quite frankly. Silence, complicity even, a shifting set of morals based on how many tickets you could sell or how many streams you racked up. This week at IMS, we're going to talk about consent, not as a PR exercise or a box to tick, but as a fundamental question of what spaces are we building and who are we protecting? Because if the dance floor isn't safe, it isn't free. And if it isn't free, it's just another room. So please, and in particular, as I mentioned in the earlier speech, I'm talking to men, show up at the consent and safety panel. Because all too often, the people who need to hear those panels are the very ones absent. It's the same when we do panels on racism and there's no white people in the audience. If you want change to happen, you have to be present, even when it's not comfortable. Because trust me, it's noticed when you do show up and it's noticed when you don't show up. Another really important subject is censorship and deplatforming. Because we have seen artists, brave principled artists, deplatformed in silence for speaking about injustice, war, sexual predators. In an industry that was born out of protest from people on the margins, how are we now silencing people for speaking their truth? Like NDAs before them, morality clauses seem to be the new legal way to silence. Bear in mind, though, they can silence that person today, they can silence you tomorrow, so you have to push back. Please give important voices like Sama Abdul Hadi and Moody Merhan your time, because these conversations couldn't be more urgent. There's a big focus as well on mental health and wellness at IMS. And when we talk about IMS, sorry, gotta love dyslexia and ADHD working together. When we talk about mental health and music, who do we picture? DJ, right? Artist, which is good and it's important and we should. But what about the tour manager who hasn't slept for 3 or 4 days or weeks or months? What about the promoter risking it all? What about the publicist who's now working in a world of paid for media with no budget? What about the artist manager who works their arse off for someone for 20% of nothing just for them to leave and go to a bigger company that never put in the groundwork? Or the booking agent who fields a call from someone at 3 a.m. from a self-made crisis? On Friday, there's a conversation in the Brave space called Offstage, Off Radar. It's specifically about mental health of the people behind the scenes. Artists, please go. Learn how to help the people who help you. Then there's the silent assassin in the room. The one that's already in your phone, your laptop, your studio, your marketing department. The one that's starting to take jobs. AI. Which sounds very Geordie when you say it. But AI, what? Sorry, my own accent is making me laugh. I watched it generate a track in 45 seconds that a producer would spend a week trying to master. I've seen it make press releases, artwork, videos even now. And I'll be honest, I used it to correct my grammar as a dyslexic, and I got it to make these slides. And I know every time our industry has had some kind of technological earthquake, the first instinct can often be fear. CDs, MP3s, streaming, take your pick. But yet we're all still standing or sitting here after all those things. And the only thing we can know for certain about this industry is that it will change. And the people who've survived, the people who thrive, are the ones who learn to harness that change. Maria Garrido from Deezer is going to educate us on this. So go to that session, listen, challenge, and engage. Because the conversation is one shaping the next decade of our industry, and you need to be part of it. But this week, and you wouldn't think it necessary from this speech, isn't all about doom and gloom. This next 3 days are going to be a lot of fun, a lot of laughs, hugs with friends, old and new. We'll celebrate the triumphs, the best practice, because reclaiming the dance floor isn't just about dismantling, it's about building better. And this year at IMS, there are 5 spaces to learn in. There's the 2 summit stages, inside and outside, which is where the industry holds itself to account. The business reports, the keynotes, people like me wittering on. Then there's HE.SHE.THEY's brave space, where we go a bit deeper and we tackle some of the subjects that a lot of people shy away from. Then there's the art of arete. It's here to help you look after yourself. Breath work, which is an asthmatic I'm here for. Nutrition, recovery, sonic health, because you can't reclaim anything if you're running on empty. And finally, the Pete Tong Academy. This is where the next generation learn the tools of the trade. Please give them your time because, trust me, it will mean the world to them. So over the next 3 days, here's what I'm asking you to do. Alongside the joy, also allow yourself to be uncomfortable. Go to the sessions that make you squirm, have the conversations you've been avoiding, talk to someone who doesn't look like you or think like you. Because it's time to remember that before dance music was ever an industry, it was a movement. And movements don't run on revenue, they run on belief, because reclaiming the dance floor isn't a one-person job or a company or a conference even. It's a daily, grinding, unglamorous commitment for all of us to do better. Now, I started that talk about that sticky, grotty carpet in East London, but I'll leave it with a better one. The dance floor at 2 a.m, when the lights are low and the music is right and nobody cares who you are, what you do, how much fucking money you've got. Because that moment, that feeling, that's what we fell in love with and that's what we're reclaiming. Thank you.